What's going on, rock stars? How are you? And welcome to another episode of Rock It Live. I am your host, Chris Vaglio, and this is a show where we have awesome conversations with amazing entrepreneurs, creative professionals, and just people I think are all around just awesome and cool and genuine. And we get into these great conversations. So, welcome to the show. If you're watching this live, make sure you comment or share or do all the things that you do when you're watching the show live. If you're catching a replay of this, make sure that you hit that subscribe button and follow button. And if you're listening to the video version, do all those things as well. I've got an amazing guest on. The amazing entrepreneur himself is here in the Rocket Live studios, Mr. Sid Meadows. And before we bring him on, before we take off his mic, I'm going to do a quick thanking our sponsors, the people who support us around here. So real quick, going to take care of this up front, and then we will get into our interview with Mr. Sid. But today, our sponsor is Share Local, and Share Local is the number one thing that has changed my networking. It is a contactless way to share your contact information via SMS, QR code, NFC tags, and web. Each time your card is shared, the recipient is added to your target audience, and that way it's all entered digitally. I've got a share card. Like I said, it's changed the way that I have been able to network, and it is great. No more fumbling around, no more trying to enter things in. It's all in there, and I can just put it right in my CRM. And if you want to get your own version of the share card, all you have to do is sign up online, go to winlocal.com, use my promo code ROCKET10 for 10% off. Once again, sharelocal.com. Use the link in the show notes and the video description below. Use my promo code at checkout. That is ROCKET10. And with that, with all the corporate sponsorships, I love Share Local. Those guys are the best. Seth was on the show. I love him. I want to welcome my guest, Mr. Sid Meadows, to the show, man. How are you, Sid?
Chris, I'm doing great, buddy. Thanks so much for having me. I'm glad to be here today.
Dude, I am so happy to have you on. I feel like I say this every single week, and everybody's probably sick of me saying it, but you and I have been talking to each other for like over a year pretty much to get you on the show and wrangle this. I've been on your show before, and we've known each other via Clubhouse, which is where we met, which is I feel like every single person that comes in here is like, and we met via Clubhouse, and we met on Clubhouse, and we met on some platform. But honestly, Clubhouse has been great, and and that's how you and I got connected. And I feel like you and I are very much cut from the same cloth when it comes from a lot of the ideas and the philosophies and the attitude that we both talk about with our clients, and the conversations you and I have behind the scenes all the time about business and being an entrepreneur and all the things you have to deal with. And so while we may come from different industries and maybe different backgrounds, you and I absolutely share the same sort of ideas. And so that's why I'm like just so excited to have you on. And I told everybody, I'm like, I'm gonna have Sid on. Guy's a powerhouse. He's super positive, super energetic, and everybody that's listening to this or going to be watching this, you're going to walk away completely inspired and motivated to take things to the next level in your life and your business. And that's and being friends with Sid, that's what it's done for me personally. So thank you, sir, for coming on today and spending some time with us.
So I'm really grateful to be here, Chris, and I appreciate the invitation. And after that very eloquent introduction, I think we should just like end the show now, because it's like, let's go. That was perfect.
Yeah, no, you're not getting off that easy.
Oh my goodness, that's perfect.
Yeah, but I love that you're on here, and I've been fortunate enough to spend time with you in Clubhouse in some of the great rooms that you've run and the different teams that you've talked about. You're a business mentor. You're a creator. You have 2 podcasts going on. I've heard you talk about many themes involving leadership, business ownership, mindset when it comes to owning and running your own business. How to deal with teams of people, and like I said, be a strong leader. And so those are all the kind of things I kind of want to touch on a little bit as we talk today. But let's take it back to the beginning, Mr. Meadows.
Let's go.
How did you get into this wacky world, man, of entrepreneurism and doing what you do?
So it's a really great question, Chris, because I thought about being an entrepreneur, but it was never like a goal. I never had it on
Right.
top of my goal list or my vision board that said, "Hey, let's be an entrepreneur." But I always kind of wanted to. There was a longing there.
Right.
And so, I'm quite a bit older than you. And so back when I got out of college, what you did is you got a job and you started
Right.
paying bills and you moved out and you kind of did the thing. And so, very fortunately for me, I fell into an amazing industry, which is the office furniture industry or the contract
Hmm.
interiors industry. And I worked in that industry for 30 years, and which is great. I
Right.
worked at a distributor, I worked at a manufacturer, and then I ran a distributor,
Hmm.
and then I went back to another factory, and I spent 10 years at the most recent company. And I made my way up from a regional vice president to a senior vice president. So I was responsible for about half the company's revenue and about half of its people.
Right.
And which is great. I was having a lot of fun based in
Yeah.
Boston. I got to go to Boston a lot. And I love the products. I love the people. But here's the thing, Chris.
Hmm.
I was on an airplane 6 days a week and I had two of everything. And I always had a suitcase packed. And,
Right.
we moved to Texas during that time frame. And, my kids were little and I was missing a lot of their day to day life. We had a full time nanny that basically lived with us. She became a third child for my wife and I, and
Yeah.
part of our family even today. And, I just a couple of years before I actually left, I wasn't feeling it. And
Yeah.
I was mentally, physically, and emotionally exhausted. I had traveled so much, I'd done so much, and there were some things going on that really weren't pleasant. And so I basically, after a lot of conversations with the leadership, specifically the CEO and the chairman of the board, I finally said, I'm out. I raised my hand,
Hmm.
said, I'm out. And that was on a Friday. And on Monday, I was said, thanks, see ya after 10
Right.
years. And I'm like, okay, let's go. And so there was some miscommunication going on about what I was doing and where I was going. And what I did, Chris, is I took 2 months off
Okay.
and I needed to take care of me. I
Hmm.
needed to mentally, physically, and emotionally get myself in a better place. And so I just took 2 months off and I rested, man. I just hung out. I slept in, which is really challenging for me. I read some books. And so then I just started thinking about, hey, what is it that I want to do? And it was really interesting, Chris. This is the point that I'm like, okay, I'm going to start my own business.
Yeah.
Like, what the heck am I going to start it? I don't know what I'm going to do. And so three people in 24 hours told me exactly the same thing. And the last one was the former CEO or the CEO of the company that I had just left.
Hmm.
And when he said that to me, I'm like, well, tell me why. And so the next day, literally, I remember sitting outside having coffee with the dogs, my notepad, and I came up with the company name, what it meant, what I
Hmm.
was going to do. And then we were off to the races. And Chris, April the 1st is the big 5 years, buddy.
Hey, all right. Wow, there you go. And
Yep.
and as you know, um,
Yeah.
to make it to out of year one, the odds are against you,
Yep.
let alone 5 years. So congratulations to you, because by the end of
Thank
this
you.
week, you'll be officially 5 years. Doesn't mean obviously you're out of the woods, but the fact is that you've already beat the odds once. Now you're going to be
Sure.
beating the odds a second time. And now the third time is, after that, it's all just about growth, man, and keeping it going and
Yes, sir.
living the dream, man, living the dream. And, isn't it amazing, like when you start a business or decide that you're going to start a business, like that overall feeling of like combination of excitement and anxiety all wrapped into one, like, because it's literally like walking off the plank, like
Yes,
you
it
were
is.
100% doing a cliff dive, because
Well, that's what I tell people.
there's no
I literally,
guarantee.
that's exactly right. I mean, I tell people I proverbially jumped off a cliff. I didn't physically jump off a cliff, but I
Right.
did jump off a cliff in my career and went from safety and security into the unknown.
Yeah.
But dude, I got to tell you, even though it's a crazy bumpy ride, I've never had as much fun and enjoy
Right.
what I do as much as I do right this very minute.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things I tell people all the time. You gotta love it, and it's gonna change, and you're gonna let things are gonna happen. Like things that are completely out of your control are going to happen. You're going to make a lot of mistakes, like guaranteed. but all of it's okay. It's all part of the journey, man. Like,
That's
because you
right.
just can't get better. You can't be better than you were yesterday, today, and you're not going to be better tomorrow unless you go through the things that you just went through the previous day, the lessons that you
That's
learned, the
right.
mistakes that you made. And that's what it is, man. Entrepreneurism, I mean, life in general is a journey, but entrepreneurism is definitely 100% a journey. And things are going to be thrown at you that you're never going to expect, and they do. They always do.
Yes, they do.
Once you think you have it figured out, it's like, nope. I don't have
Yeah,
this all
think
figured out.
again, right? Think
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, 100%. And I love to, because once again, you and I have had the privilege, for those of you watching, listening, I've had the privilege of really talking with Sid a lot about these different topics, and sitting in rooms with him, and him moderating these wonderful discussions in Clubhouse, where people are really, creating a really safe space where people can talk about, the things they're going through, the things they're feeling, or, they're thinking about taking that jump, that risk,
Yep.
like, how many conversations have we heard of, like, hey, I think I'm ready, or I'm thinking about doing it, or I'm putting my plans together, and I'm thinking maybe in a year or maybe 6 months. And it's one of those things where, yeah, you try to put a timeline to it, but honestly, like, it's like you're just gonna do it. Like, it's almost like you're never really ready to do it, but so it's like a fine line of, like, you could put a
Yep.
milestone to it, but you may get there and still be like, I don't know if I'm ready. It's kind of like you really just gotta, do
Yeah, you
it.
got to take the leap, right? You have a
Yeah.
little bit of trust in yourself
Hmm.
because what you just said, Chris, is spot on. You're never ready.
Yeah.
You don't, it's not like, okay, I'm going to start a business on June the 1st. That's great. You set a target date, but I guarantee you, you're not ready. You don't have
Right.
everything done. You don't have all this stuff worked out, but that's okay. Just go, just start. Right. And that, I
Yeah.
think, is the important thing is if you know what you're going to do, set the date and then do it. Because if you wait till you're ready, you're never going to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And our friend Amanda Sharp, check it in.
What's
Sorry I'm late
up?
to the party. I love seeing the two of my favorite people in the same video. Well, thank you, Amanda Sharp. We love you very
Great to see you,
much.
Amanda.
Great to see you. Thanks for checking in. And if anybody else would like to join the chat, or comment or whatever, just go along, do it, throw it up here, and we'll bring them up. Or if you have any questions for Sid, throw them in the chat, and we will definitely get to them. So, one of the things that I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, Sid, was, and there's actually been a lot of things that it's like, I think you and I could have like a 3-hour live
Mhm.
discussion here about everything. But, one of the things that I know comes up a lot, um, in a lot of the rooms we've been in and things like that, is this leadership, right?
Mhm.
And what leaderships means. And leadership, I think, means something different for different people,
Yep.
depending on what they're doing. So whether it's in their personal life, their family life, or obviously leading a team of people, or whatever. I wanted to just talk a little bit about, like, that leadership for you, and
Sure.
sort of how do you define leadership in what you do and how you help people? Like, what is your definition of leadership?
So it's a really great question, Kristen. And, I've been a leader the majority of my career.
Yeah.
And I think learning about leadership and stepping into becoming a leader is also a journey. And so I did give myself a little bit of grace as I grew personally and as I
Hmm.
grew professionally and as I grew as a leader. There was a time that I was a pretty crappy leader and I was demanding and I yelled at people and da 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 da. But I think a lot of leaders start out that way. But today, as I've evolved, my definition of leadership has evolved. And leadership is not about management.
Hmm.
That's a manager, right? A
Right.
leader is not about managing the task or managing the outcome. To me, leadership is about empowerment and empowering the people around you, empowering the people that you've hired, whether you're an entrepreneur that has a small team or maybe no team at all, you're still a leader, right? Or if you're a
Right.
small business owner, or if you're a Fortune 100 leader, it is literally about empowering the people around you to do the job that you hired them to do and to let their voice be heard. And I frame this, Chris, as the easiest way to say it is
Hmm.
lead from the back.
Oh, I
And what
like
I
that.
mean by that is rather than you walk into a conference room of your team and you stand up and you say, here's the problem and let's figure out how to solve it.
Right.
and you start leading that whole conversation. Don't do that. What I would tell you to do is to go into the room, create a safe environment for your employees so that they feel like they can talk and they can say anything that they want to without any form of repercussion. Okay.
Mhm.
That there's nothing's going to happen to them when they share their voice, because so many employees, especially in corporate America, are scared to let their voice be heard because
Right.
they don't know what the outcome of them sharing their thoughts and their ideas. So first off, create a safe space. Second thing is you go in there and you explain the problem or the challenge that you're having, and then you sit and you ask them to solve the problem, and you watch the amazing people that you hired use their talent and their gifts to solve the problem. Now, one
Mm.
thing I'll add to that is that what I would encourage you to do is to bring in a cross-functional team. And I don't mean just various different departments. I want you to bring in people from sales, people from marketing, people from accounting. If you're a manufacturer, bring in someone from the manufacturer floor, and bring in people that have diverse thoughts and ideas, because some of your best ideas to propel the growth of your organization are going to come from the people within your organization in the most unlikely position. Because remember, they
Yeah.
see what's really happening, right? And
Right.
so let them, and then you sit and you just listen and you watch and let them come up with ideas, let them brainstorm. And so to me, that's what leading from the back is all about.
Yeah, I love that. I think that is super solid advice. So I hope everybody who's listening to this or watching this right now, like, really took a lot from that, because even for me hearing it, and I've heard Sid talk about this before, but it's one of those great things hearing it again. How essential it is. I think that there were so many great things you just said in there. And I think one of the key things is, really utilizing your team, the people you picked. You said, like, the people you hired, and your most valuable asset within your business are the people you bring on, right? They're there for a reason. Use them. Your voice doesn't always have to be the one that's being the loudest voice in the room, or the one that's always constantly being heard. Like, let people do what they do. I
Mhm.
love that. Like, let them solve the problem. Like, let them work it out. That's what they're there for. That's why you brought them there. You always want to hire, one of the things I learned from my mentor very early on when I started business was always hire people that are smarter and better than you. and
That's
I and
right.
I and I love that, because it's so true. Like, I don't need another one of me. I need someone smarter than me. I need someone better than me. Like,
Mhm.
because that's, I need people to help me create this and elevate what I've already started, but I can't do it by myself. I need people that are better to me to help me
Well,
achieve the vision and do what needs to be done.
you also need people that are going to challenge the status quo, Chris.
I love
And
that.
you
Yes, so
have to
true.
create a safe space for them to do
Yes.
that. If they feel like, oh, I can't say that my manager's in the room, I'm going to be in trouble, I'm going to be written up, my job's going to be in jail, then they're not going to talk. So
Yeah.
you got to create that safe space. And as the leader, you have to say out loud, this is a safe space. This is a place where you can share your wildest and craziest ideas. And we're going to listen to all of them to develop a solution. You've got to encourage that,
Mm.
because the best idea can literally come from the most unexpected place. And I'll use manufacturing as an example again, because I
Right.
worked in manufacturing for
Yeah.
so long. The employee that's actually on the line making the product, if
Right.
he or she has an idea that's going to save money, increase the productivity, allow them to get product out faster and quicker, wouldn't you want to listen to that idea? Wouldn't you want to
Absolutely.
encourage them to share rather than silence them? So empower them in a safe space to speak up. And I guarantee you, you're going to see amazing results, Chris. And can I drop a recommendation, Chris?
Of course. Yeah. Drop it, man.
All right.
Drop the gems, brother.
So I'm a huge reader. I love reading all types of books about all different things. And about a year ago, I read this book by Gary Burnison. I don't know if you know who he is, Chris, but he's the CEO of Corn Ferry.
Okay.
And Corn Ferry is a research and an HR company, and they do a lot of research about leadership and about employee health and well-being and all kinds of really good stuff. You can look them up.
Okay.
But he wrote a book called Leadership U, Accelerating Through the Crisis Curve. And it's a really easy book to read. It's like 150 pages. It's a small book. And dude, I've read it 3 times. And the first time I read it, it was like, oh my gosh, I agree with him on this. Oh my gosh, I agree with him on this. Oh, we're on the same. And now, because I do
Yeah.
leadership coaching, I literally recommend it to every leader that I work with. And then we talk about it.
Mm.
If you are a leader or an aspiring leader, read that book, Leadership You by Gary Burnison. It's a super easy book to read.
That's awesome. I'm gonna have to read that because I've never read that. So
Great
that
book.
sounds great. Yeah, I'm gonna definitely have to pick that up. So thanks for dropping that recommendation there. That is very cool. So I feel like you and I could just talk about this topic forever. There's so many things I want to talk to you about.
Yep.
But so I want to kind of move along a little bit though. So that thank you, because I think that was great. And I really feel like for a lot of people who have heard this live or will be watching this or once again listening to this on the replay, I think what you just said was very, very valuable when it comes to leadership. And if that's something that you're looking to do, looking to get better at, because you should always be looking to get better at that. You've never learned it all. You're never finished growing as a person or as a leader. So I hope that everybody took something away from that. But what I wanted to sort of talk about is, so you and I met on Clubhouse.
Yep.
Right. We met on this app, this magical app that appeared one day in
Yep.
our lives. And you and I have been fortunate enough to have, been in a great community that brought a lot of people together. We've interacted with a lot of great people. And so you and I have become friends and been able to work and be in rooms together and have these great discussions. But what I want to talk about though, from that aspect is, there was obviously before an app like Clubhouse, and now there's after Clubhouse and all the things that, over the last year, we pretty much have been on this app. How, in your eyes, has this, and I'm going to ask you from your own
Okay.
experience, and then how you maybe think moving forward for everybody else. But for you personally, how has this affected or changed or improved your business skills, you as a person? What lessons have you learned and value have you gotten out of this?
Okay. So that's like a total loaded question.
I
And
know
the
it is.
lessons learned, we could have a whole nother episode about that
Yeah,
one.
it's
Okay.
true. It's true. It's true.
Sure. So I discovered Clubhouse by accident. I had heard about it. And then a fellow coach invited me said, hey, do you want to invite? Because I said when it was invite only, I said yes.
Right.
And so I quickly got on the app and realized, oh, I need a strategy behind this, because I could spend 12 hours on this app and look up and no work's been done. And I've just been in a whole, I was just invigorated, and I was
I know.
amazed by the quality and the caliber of people just freely sharing information and advice and their experiences. Right. And so I really embraced the app once I created a strategy. So I went there, and I go there to connect, to learn, to grow, and to lead. That's why I go to Clubhouse. Okay.
Okay.
And so the biggest one of my biggest takeaways from Clubhouse is connection. Chris, there's no reason we should know each other.
Right.
There's no reason we should be friends. There's no reason that I should know Amanda.
Yeah.
Right. And like on Saturdays afternoons, I host a club, a moderator room with someone in the relationship marketing club. His name is Troy. Troy might be listening. Troy's become a really good friend.
Yeah.
We're as opposite as the day is long. And he lives in Pensacola, Florida. I live in Texas. He's African-American and I'm white. He's a little older than me, but there's no reason that we should be connected. But thanks to Clubhouse, we got connected.
Yeah.
And so the ability to make real, true, meaningful relationships exist on the platform. So that's my biggest takeaway, right? So now, from a lessons learned perspective, okay. Oh gosh. Be mindful of the people that you listen to.
Right.
Because there are a lot of people there that are there strictly to sell to you or to target you for sales. Okay. And don't get me wrong. It's a great platform to create warm leads in your business.
Yes.
But you got to curate the community. You've got to curate the rooms that you go into. And so really be mindful of who you listen to, who's on the stage and what are they sharing and what are they saying and how true is it? Okay.
Right.
So the second lesson that I'll tell you is use Google as your friend.
You know what? It's so right on, man. So right on. Use Google as your friend
Yeah,
because the
validate some of the
internet is for
crap you
never.
hear.
Is for yeah. The internet is forever.
Yeah, it is. It is. So validate, use Google as your friend to validate. But I think another lesson that I learned, Chris, I remember
Mhm.
the first time I raised my hand.
Right.
I was like, well, I've got nothing to add to this conversation. I mean, I was learning about LinkedIn, I was learning about podcasting.
Hmm.
The growth that I experienced about podcasting about LinkedIn is off the charts.
Yeah.
And I just like, I raised my little hand, you know. So what I would say is, my friend Troy says this that um, Clubhouse gave the voiceless a voice,
Hmm.
and he says it a little bit differently, but something to that. And but what I would tell you is just be brave. Raise your hand, go ask a question, look for a community that and look for topics that are of interest of you and then learn and grow. I grew tremendously as a speaker, as a leader. I stepped in more to my confidence and sharing my voice in a public forum, which I've always done in the
Right.
private forum with people that pay me. But so a lot of that I think are great learnings from the platform.
Yeah, and I agree with just about everything you said. I really do because I for me my personal experience has been very very similar to yours in that way of I've never had problems talking to people or doing anything like that, but definitely as a public speaker and especially during, I mean, I think Clubhouse came along at a right time in all of our lives in the sense of, we were still a majority of us were still in the lockdown and there was no we were kind of zoomed out on like doing virtual happy hours and things like that. And Clubhouse was fun. It was different in that way of like, hey, we can get together and meet other people and have these conversations, but we don't necessarily have to like worry about being on camera on Zoom or anything like that. And it gave a certain kind of freedom, I think, from that. And as far as public speaking goes, for me, I definitely forced me to become a better public speaker or articulating my thoughts better, moderating, all those things that like I'd kind of done and have done, but this put me in a different position than
Sure.
I wasn't normally used to being in. And for that, I learned a lot. And then obviously the connection side, which is what you said, like, making those connections, meeting great people, getting to know so many folks and collaborations. I mean, that you and I met and Amanda
Mhm.
Sharp, and that's Amanda and I do a show together. So it's like all that happened because of Clubhouse, and that's definitely things I've learned. Now I'll tell you some of the other things, and I don't know if you feel the same way about this, but this is why too, as far as branding goes for myself. And you touched on it a bit, just because somebody's at the top of the room or the one with the mic holding doesn't necessarily mean they're the most credible person in the room. People are very good at sounding extremely convincing and saying, pretending to be who they are doesn't always mean they are who they are. And this is one of the reasons why me personally, I stopped using the word coach in
Yeah.
the way I describe myself. I started saying the word, and this is me, this isn't against anybody else who uses the word coach, obviously. But for me as a personal choice, I decided to drop using the word coach and start using the word mentor because of some of the experiences I've had in Clubhouse and being in some rooms. And I feel like that, unfortunately, and listen, with this is with anything in life, right? You're gonna have snake oil
Oh yeah.
salesmen, salespeople, wherever you go, no matter what industry you're in, no matter what you're in, there's always gonna be. And I feel like, that because the app was so new, kind of a bit of the Wild West, you know, a lot of folks were able to run rampant very early on. And, unfortunately, take advantage of people who
Mhm.
didn't Google, little naive, you know,
Yep.
cut off because of the lockdown and all that. And, some people are really good at taking advantage of others, unfortunately, but it happens all the time. But this is one for me personally. This is why things I learned and what I've taken away is this is why I stopped using the word coach when I
Sure.
describe myself and I say business mentor, consultant, that. But once again, that's my personal approach to it. It's nothing
Yeah,
against
there's a
anybody
lot
else
of
that uses the word coach, by the way.
there's a lot of coaches on Clubhouse. And I'm a coach,
Yeah, you
right?
are, and
I'm
you're
a
a great
coach,
coach.
but I've used it because I'm certified as a coach.
Right.
I did the work. Now, whether you did or anybody else did is irrelevant. Coaching is an unregulated field. So you can use the word if you want to, right? Strictly up to you. But I use it in a form of, I'm proud, Chris, that those certificates are hanging on this wall over here
And you
and that I
should be.
spent the money to invest in myself because that's what I
Yes.
did. I
Yes.
invested in myself. But, one of the things that I think about coaching is there's a big misconception about what coaching is.
Right.
And in my opinion, and the way I was taught and the way that I learned, is coaching is about helping people discover their own answers to the questions, right?
Right.
It's about having conversations and asking questions that allow you, if I'm coaching you, Chris, that allow you to discover your own answers.
Right.
So many people confuse coaching with, well, Chris, what should I do today? And then you tell them. Telling is not coaching. That's my opinion. People listening may agree or disagree with me. It doesn't matter, but that's my opinion of it. And I think that's what happened on Clubhouse is that people went in to coaching relationships or rooms where coaching was happening.
Right.
And all they were doing was giving advice or being told what to do. And they try it. Oh, I'm gonna go hire this person that's great advice. But at the end of the day, people's you will discover who the real person is if you
Right.
dig deep enough, right?
Yes.
And so now, opposite side of that, Chris,
Yes.
I've quit using the word coaching because I'm sorry to everybody on LinkedIn listening. Because I use the term coach does not make me a target and leave me alone. Quit
Yes.
sliding up in my DMs trying to sell me something on the daily. I mean, Chris, it's daily.
I know. I have
Because I'm a coach in my profile.
same reason why I also did that too, which is I
It's
dropped it
ridiculous.
because of the targeting, and
Yes.
it's cold calling. It's just it's
Which doesn't work, by the way.
cold DMing, but it's a
Yep.
numbers game, right? So for every 1,000 of those messages that go out, if one or two people decide to take them up on that, then great, mission
Yep.
accomplished.
I mean, Chris, you've gotten it too, right? Hey,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Chris, we help coaches make 6 figures in 30 days by this proprietary. Click here to schedule a call with us for free. I'm like, okay, just get out of my DMs.
Yeah, it's the same thing as robocalling and dialing for dollars and the
Yep.
whole thing. I mean, it's a sales tactic as old as sales, so it's
Yeah, absolutely.
it's never gonna go away. But yes, I agree. It is quite annoying, which is unfortunate because I got to be honest with you, it causes me to actually miss some of the real messages, and
Yep.
I try to go back. So for everybody who tried to connect with me for real and I haven't gotten back to you, this is an open apology because of what Sid was describing. I try to go through once a week. I go through the messages and I delete, and then I try to accept the ones that I know are like for
Yep.
real people who are like, hey, I really want to connect with you and get to know you, and let's do a one-to-one. And they're not trying to sell me anything. They just want to have actually
They want
begin
a connection. They want a
connect
real
and see if
connection.
there's a
Yes.
relationship. So this is an open apology to everybody who's like, dude, I sent you a connection like 2 months ago. How come you didn't accept it? It's because it's buried under 300 spam connections.
So, Chris, I want to talk for just one more second about coaching too,
Yes,
because
sir.
when I started the Amazing Entrepreneurs Club, okay,
Yeah.
and which is my club on Clubhouse, I started it with the focus of helping entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
helping them along their journey and sharing from my experience.
Mhm.
I'm not an expert. If you choose to
Right.
call me an expert, that's great. I don't choose to call myself that.
Mhm.
I choose to share from my experiences and what I've learned along my journey because, Chris, the Lord knows I have learned a lot along the way, right? Some
Yep.
really good and some not so good.
Yep.
But I've learned a lot along my journey and I share from my experiences in the real world.
Mhm.
And it's important for me to be able to do that. But I'm also mature enough to say to you, I don't know the answer to that question. I'm also confident enough in myself to say, you know what, Chris, that's a really great question. I've
Right.
never experienced that. And I don't know the answer to that question, but I'm happy to go do some research and come back to you about it or tell you where you could research it. But my whole focus of the Amazing Entrepreneurs Club was to help entrepreneurs along their journey. Because here's the thing, Chris, I almost quit.
Right.
I almost gave up on my dream. I realized how lonely it is being an entrepreneur. I realized that though they tell you and they glamorize that you're going to start your business here and
Yep.
then it's just going to go doom, 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 straight up and you're going to be a millionaire in 60 days.
Right.
That's not real. Okay. The
No.
path of an entrepreneur is like up and down and up and down, and great highs and then unbelievable lows. And I found myself in a low one day, Chris.
Hmm.
Literally, we lost an opportunity that I probably spent $10,000 working on
Hmm.
with the lady that was working with me. We felt really good about it. Great proposal, lots of research. It's like 3 months going through all this. And the guy said, "Hey, thanks. We decided not to proceed," in an email. I was like, whoa, I thought we were good. Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
good, you know,
Right.
I'm counting the dollars because bad mistake. Entrepreneurs don't do that.
Nope.
But I emailed him and I said, "Hey, we're a young business. I'd really appreciate your insights and feedback as to why you chose not to proceed so that we could learn and get better." That was my request, right? It was
Hmm.
not, well, why didn't you buy? What did we do wrong? It wasn't that. It was strictly what could we have done differently so that we can learn, right? To be better as a
Hmm.
company. He ghosted me. About a day after he didn't respond,
Right.
I remember vividly, Chris, laying in the floor of my office. I was working in a co-working space. I closed the door and I turned the lights off. And I got as close to real depression as I've ever been in my entire life. And I
Right.
finally understood what that meant. And I stayed there for 3 days. I
Hmm.
put on a happy face when I came home, and then I would go back and do the same thing. One day I'm like, "Sid, what the heck are you doing? Why are you doing this?" And I snapped myself out of it. But that story is why the Amazing Entrepreneurs Club exists, so that no one feels alone and that you can learn from and grow from other people's experiences. And we can walk this path together,
Yeah.
including celebrating each other along the way, because this is a bumpy road that we're on. That's why the club exists. That's why the website exists. And that's why the podcast exists.
Yeah. I mean, well said. I mean, you summed it up perfectly. And I think any entrepreneur out there who's been doing this, business owner, I think almost everybody. Actually, I don't know it. I don't. I think if you're a real business owner, you can absolutely 100% relate to the story you just told, because it's happened to all of us, every single one of us. I mean, it happens. It's real. And by the way, it's okay to feel how you felt, because we're human beings. We're human beings. We're not, like,
Mhm.
it's okay to feel like this. It's okay to wonder and get depressed a bit. And but see that the thing is too though is it's coming out of it.
Mhm.
And we talk about this. You and I have talked about this. I talk about this on the show with other people. Is that positive mental attitude of, as low as things get, it's not the end, and it could feel really lonely, but you're not alone. And if you have a good positive mental attitude going into it, it will help you to get back on that
Yep.
horse and do it again. And that's what it is. I mean, and that situation, it sucks, man. I mean, it sucks when it happens, and it's happened to all of us. It's, and you do everything right, and you even do the follow-up. Hey, I'd like to learn. How can this be a learning moment for me? Because once again, if you're always growing, you're always learning. There's
That's
no way
right.
to know it all. And what could I have done better in this situation? Because I want to be better. And when somebody can't reciprocate that, it hurts. It
Oh, yeah,
hurts
it
because
does.
it's like, come on, man. Like, we're humans here.
Yeah.
Just tell me, I want to be better. If I screwed up, if I said the wrong thing, if we were too much money, like, did
Yeah.
I
Just,
oversell it? Like, what? You didn't have confidence, or just, the other company had better work. Okay, great. I'm an adult. I can handle it. Like, good. All right. Good to know. I
that's
know
right.
that. So, so for anybody out there, once again, if you're listening or watching to this, if you're being sold and you have a decision to make, and if somebody asks you why, please take the time. It takes about 30 to 60 seconds to just write the reason why. You're going to really help somebody out, because you're helping somebody to get better, and vice versa. So,
Absolutely.
there's nothing wrong with helping people get better on their journey, because everybody can learn and everybody can be better. So, don't do that to people. Do not ghost people like that.
No, do not, because
Do not.
it has a bigger impact than what people realize,
It really
right?
does. Yeah,
This guy
absolutely.
probably has no clue
Nope.
about the
Nope.
impact that it had to me, but I can
No.
tell you what, Chris, even without his feedback, I became a better person. I became a better leader.
Yeah.
I have a better company because I learned from that experience. I learned how to handle
Hmm.
rejection better. I learned to give myself grace to deal with bad news and to ask myself two questions. Okay, Sid, you're going to deal with this. How
Right.
low are you going to let this take you? And how long are you going to stay there? That's giving myself the grace to deal with something that the outcome I didn't really like. Right. And
Right.
then I'm just going to go. Let's keep going, man. We got lives to change. We got businesses to help grow. And we have to keep going. You can't let one instance stop you from the reach and the impact that you have in the world.
Well said, my friend. Well said. So I feel once again we can go on and on about just that topic, but I do want to I want to get to some other things,
Sure, let's go.
and then we'll wrap it up because I know not everybody wants to sit here all day and listen to
I don't know
us.
why, Chris. I
Yeah,
mean, we're two good-looking
I
guys.
know,
We're
I
young
know.
enough. I mean, they
These
can
are
hang out with us.
I know these are the conversations we have when there is no mic and camera on.
Yeah, that's
um,
right.
so I want to talk about because I had, the people who listen to this show, are entrepreneurs and business owners, but they're also creators and creative professionals. And like I said, overall, just people I think that are just interested in hearing other people's stories. But I would love to hear a little bit about your story about how you discovered podcasting or how you got involved in creating content. Because I know for like my back, I've said this 10 billion times. Everybody knows to death. Like my background was in that. I've been a content creator my whole life and just, doing all that. Um, but I'm always fascinated to see how other people got into creating
Mhm.
content. And and you're doing two different shows now. As you were talking about, you have the Amazing Entrepreneurs Club, and then also a podcast that goes along with that. And then also you've got the Trend Report, which you've
Yep,
been doing. So yeah, just share a little bit about that because
sure.
I think for a lot of folks they want to get involved in it and maybe aren't sure how or how how
Yeah.
someone like you came into
Mhm.
creating content like this.
So, Chris, until about a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, I didn't know what the word content creator meant.
Right.
I didn't really even think that that existed or that those people existed. Okay. I didn't. Just be clear. I didn't know that those people were there.
That's fair.
But um, my first entree into content creation started at the very beginning of my business. And about 6 months into my business, I'd gotten super busy and I was working, supporting people in the office furniture industry. And I reached out to the publisher of a very well read magazine in the industry called The Business of Furniture, and selfishly kind of pitching myself to say,
Right.
hey, would you do a story on me? And he like, yeah, I'll do a story on you. And so in the middle of the interview, he stops and said, I know that this is not what it's about, but Sid, this is a really important topic. Would you write a column for our magazine? And I
Okay.
went, do what? I don't write. Are you kidding me? Of course, the professional in me was like, oh, wow, thank you
Right.
so much. I really appreciate that. We talked about it a minute. And I said, let me think about it. I'll get back to you in a couple of days. The whole time I'm like, you're going to learn to write, dude. You're going to do this. So I said yes. And I started writing a column. That was my first entree into content creation. Well,
Mhm.
the first 3 or 4 of them were garbage. And then I kind of found my voice. And now, almost 4 years later, I write a column, not as frequently today as I did before,
Mhm.
but that was my first entree. Okay. Content
Okay.
creation, was a writer. And I knew it worked, Chris, because of the people that reached out to me. I would get
Right.
emails from people going, thank you for sharing this. I remember
Mhm.
getting an email from this gentleman who I didn't know. Basically, I'll paraphrase it. The email said, there's a reason why your column was put in front of me today. I needed to hear what you had to say. Thank you for sharing your voice. And then he ended it with, a tide rises all ships, and you are my tide today.
Wow.
Dude, that's as a content
Wow.
creator. I still didn't believe I was a content creator. So then March 2020 comes along. And dude, we just get back from Paris. We're in Europe having a great spring break. We go into lockdown. Oh, it's going to last like 30 days. We know the story there. But
Right.
in
Right.
April, this client stopped spending and this client stopped spending. And I just was like looking around. Actually, it was March when that really started happening. And then
Yeah.
I'm like, I got all this free time on my hand. what am I going to do now? And I'd had this thing called a podcast on my list because I'd become a podcast junkie
Right.
and an avid listener. And I just like, I looked at myself, I'm like, what the heck? Let's start the podcast. You've been putting it off for 2 years. Why? No, you don't have nothing to do now. So
Right.
why not do it? So I started a podcast called The Trend Report, which is is evolved to be a podcast that focuses on those people that manufacture, distribute, and sell office furniture, which is the community that I spent the majority of my career working in. And so it's an interview based where we have real conversations with real people about real topics and issues of those of us that are in that industry.
Mhm.
And I absolutely love it. We will celebrate our 100th episode in June of this year, which is really fantastic. For almost 2 years in a row, we've launched an episode every week. This year, I just have it's fully monetized. It's a lot of fun for me to do. My sponsor actually just wrapped up a 4-week series
Oh,
of a
wow.
takeover of my podcast. So they
Nice.
took my podcast over, which is a lot of fun. And so I come back next Monday, and then starting next Monday, we go to a twice a month schedule rather than an every week
Mhm.
schedule. But I really enjoy it. I get a lot of positive feedback. So that's how I got into podcasting. But Chris, I will say my podcasting game elevated when I got on Clubhouse.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I got on Clubhouse that I heard the term content creator. And then I realized and accepted my name is Sid Meadows and I'm a content creator.
That's
It was
right.
one of those moments, right?
That's
Like,
right. Yeah. Yeah.
oh, yeah, that's me. And then I was like, well, wait a minute. One podcast says not enough. Let's do another one. So,
Right. And then there's the amazing entrepreneurs.
yeah.
And that's the one, I was fortunate enough to
Yes.
have been
Appreciate it.
on, and I appreciate you giving me that opportunity. But that was fun. But I love I love that podcast. I think Amazing Entrepreneurs is great. Not the Trend Report isn't very good.
It's
But
okay.
you
You
know
don't
what?
have to listen to that one. You don't
Well,
sell
but
office
the thing is,
furniture.
I have listened to some episodes of that, and I just, once again, it's not my industry, but I find it fascinating because it's always nice to hear what's going on in other industries.
Sure.
And everybody has the same kind of challenges and issues as any other business, and
Mhm.
the same things kind of come up. It's just a matter of, your audience and all that. But for the amazing entrepreneurs, you always have great guests on, and I like how I like the style of doing it. Anyway, I'm a big fan of
Oh,
that
well, thank
show,
you, Chris.
for sure, and
Thank
I'm
you.
glad
Well,
that you created it.
you're the audience. You're the ideal customer. You're an
Right.
entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
And whether you're a solo or a small business entrepreneur, that is the target. And that show is all about providing inspiration and motivation and insights from
Hmm.
other entrepreneurs to help other entrepreneurs along their journey
Right.
so that none of us give up on our dreams, right? None
Well
of
said.
us say, this is too hard. I want to quit. So if you can listen to Chris's talk about personal branding or Katie Brinkley talk about how she overcame challenges
Yeah.
and what she shared and her tips helped you get up and keep going and gave you that inspiration, then my job as a podcaster is complete.
No, agreed 100%. And and it's so funny how we all sort of share that similar origin story when it comes to podcasting. My as I've said before on this show, I mean, I started doing what was originally called my LinkedIn friends, where I would interview, because at the time, and I think it still is a thing, that you could only upload up to, I think, 10 minutes of video to LinkedIn's player. And LinkedIn, this is going back 3 years ago, 4 years ago,
Right.
but LinkedIn's player, like if you natively uploaded video, it had tremendous reach. I don't
Mhm.
think so much anymore, but it had tremendous reach. And so I would literally do these quick 10-minute conversations. I would cut them down with entrepreneurs, people in my LinkedIn network, to
Sure.
introduce them to other people on my LinkedIn network. That was the premise of the show, because no one was able to network. And I was like, well, what can I at least do to help? Well, I'll do this.
Mhm.
And then that then evolved, and I applied for LinkedIn Live. And once I got LinkedIn Live and they approved me on it, like in like 2 months, I was like, oh, wait a second, I can start going live. Now I could do longer shows. And that was the point of which, like, it stopped being my LinkedIn friends, and I branded it
Mhm.
Rocket. First it was Rocket Growth Agency Pod. Now it's just Rocket Live. And that just opened up the floodgates for me to do, basically what I'm doing now, which is,
It's
doing a
awesome.
live stream. And then it's on, when I'm now streaming out on a bunch of different platforms at once, including LinkedIn, but all with the same goal and purpose of having great conversations with people. And hopefully the folks who tune into it find value in those conversations, learn something, take something away. And it's with people from all walks of life, whatever they're doing, whether an entrepreneur or they're a creator, or like I said, they're just somebody who just has a great, interesting story that just needs to be told, like that's the point of this show. So, but you and I have very similar origin stories. And I've had other guests on here too, have sort of the same thing. Like, lockdown happened. I had nothing to do. I was like, let me start a podcast and let me start talking, and voila.
What would be interesting, Chris, is to do a survey of podcasters. How many of them started a podcast during lockdown,
Right.
but how many of them are continuing
Well,
that
that's true.
podcast journey?
Yeah. And a lot of folks who, had a lot of time on their hands, are now, fortunately, a lot of the world and especially in the United States, we've kind of gotten back to like some semblance of a normal life, and people going back to work and all this,
Yep.
and schedules have changed. So, well, it would be interesting to see how people kept up with it, like you said, or, sort of like said, what, I don't have time for this anymore because I'm back to like full
Yep.
time work and action again. And I don't have time for a podcast in my life. But then there's people like you and I who are like, no, I can't just do one podcast. I've got to have two.
Okay, I have
And
another
both of them are
confession.
live streams.
I have another confession.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking this morning about another one. I'm like, oh, I could do a podcast. And then I'm like, no, stop. You cannot do another podcast. Sorry. But I did have that thought, because if you do it and you really
Yeah.
embrace it, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of hard work, but being a podcaster is a lot of fun, and
Yeah.
helping people and impacting their lives and their business is also a lot of fun. So
Yeah, it absolutely is, and with this show in particular, this is much more business focused. I mean, we have fun, but it's more business focused. Whereas, the Chris and Amanda show is just pure, like, for
yeah,
Amanda and I, but hopefully for everybody listening, it's more like, escapism, entertainment for an hour.
it's
you know?
hysterical is what it
Well,
is.
thanks for saying that.
I love it.
Yeah, thank you. But yeah, I mean, I love everything you said today. I mean, it's just, and I feel like we can go on and on about everything that you're doing, and all the lessons. We always talk about lessons learned, and your journey as a content creator and as a pod. And like you said, it's just like it never ends. Like
Mhm.
you want to start doing more. That's the thing, is once you start creating, it's hard to turn that switch off, and you start finding other ways to put that creative energy in, whether it's podcasting or, doing lives on IG or TikToks or writing. You were talking about writing and articles. And is there a book in the works, do you think? Is there a Sid Meadows business book or philosophy book, or
So it's
Sid Meadows version of Think and Grow Rich? Is that in the works?
I wish there was one thing in Rich, but funny that you ask, Chris.
ah, ah.
Yes, there is a book, believe it or not. I am working on it. I actually have two. So I'll tell you a quick story. I know we're running out of time, but
Tell the story.
January of 2020, prior to the lockdown, I was at an event down in Florida,
Hmm.
and I was walking around, and so I knew several people there, and walked over to this guy that I know, and we were just chit chatting. He goes, "Sid, have you ever thought about writing a book?" And I went, "Book? Who the heck's going to buy a book written by Sid?" That's what I thought. My immediate thought, right? That
Yeah.
self-deprecation. We all have those moments,
Oh
right?
yeah.
And I said, "No, not really. Why do you ask?" And he goes, "Because your columns would make an amazing book." And I was like, "That's really cool." So I just kind of like tabled it in the back, but that was the
Hmm.
first time that it happened. And then a couple other things have happened along similar. And so I have three things in the works. They will not all happen in 2022. Okay, let's be very clear.
That's fine.
Um,
That's fair.
but I do have a journal for entrepreneurs that is in the final place of getting formatted and ready to go. Hopefully, it'll come out sometime this year. That takes a financial investment, because I have a certain way that I want the journal to look and to
Of course.
feel and all that kind of stuff. So, but I am also, actually, believe it or not, I have talked to a book coach the other day. Chris is like, "What they said? What are you doing?" But I am writing. I do have a book. I have the journal that'll come out sometime this year,
Hmm.
and then I have a book that's right now titled The Digital Sales Playbook.
Oh,
And if you look on my LinkedIn profile, there's a big banner at the top, says the Digital Sales Playbook. That's one of the predominant things that I do in my business today is help
right.
people with digital sales strategies. And the book is about digital sales strategies. And I have written several things that are already in it. And yesterday I wrote a more, literally, this is yesterday, Chris.
Right.
I created a much deeper outline. And then just for me, I created a cover of the book yesterday.
Okay.
So it's
All
funny
right.
that you asked. So I just said out loud on a live that's streaming to everywhere platform that. So yeah, I'm on the hook now.
You are on the hook now. And I didn't even know that. I was guessing, by the way. Just
Mhm.
so everybody knows, that was not a setup. I did not know. I just
No, you didn't.
figured
You had no
that was
idea,
where the
right?
conversation went. So
So
but yeah,
I'm
I
excited about them.
and I that's amazing. That's truly amazing. I love that. And I've been talking about wanting to do a book for so freaking long. And the act of sitting down and actually writing a book for me just seems like I, I don't know. I feel like I would rather just like talk to somebody and go,
Mhm.
here's what I want it to be, and here's the stories and all that, and then just be like, and then you kind of write it, and then we collaborate on it.
You know you can do that, Chris.
I feel like that's what I need because at least
Those are called ghostwriters.
yeah, I need that. I need a
Yep.
ghostwriter. That's what I need. If anybody out there wants to ghostwrite the uh the Chris Vaglio guide to punk
The
rock
memoir,
business.
the Chris Bagley memo. You
Yeah,
know,
the memoir.
I've actually talked to a ghostwriter a couple of years ago. I talked to a ghostwriter
Yeah. Well, I
just because
need
it's scary. Like I'm writing a book. Like this, it's scary on
you
many
know what?
levels.
I just yeah, I'm not a very eloquent writer, and I don't know, the act of sitting and writing just seems like, but I want to have a book because I feel like I have so many good stories I want to tell, and I know I see it and I know what I want it to be. I just can't seem to get it from here
Mhm.
onto like, you know, onto
All right,
paper or onto a
I'm
computer.
I'm gonna tell you,
I'm
you
just gonna narrate it and get it transcribed is what I'm gonna have to do, I think.
that's a great idea. That's a great
Yeah.
option.
Yeah, that's what
Just
I'll
you
have to
could
do.
talk it, but I will. I have not hired him. Okay, I have not hired him. We're talking to him,
Right, right, right.
but you should go talk to Dominic. You know
Okay.
Dominic.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, you should talk to
Yeah.
Dominic.
Okay.
He's very smart as it's related to this topic, and he gave me some work to do, and so I'm doing that
Okay.
work now. And
Okay.
so, yeah, talk to Dominic because I think it's Chris, doing what we do, a book is important. I never realized that until recently,
Yeah.
but doing what we do, a book is important,
Mm,
and it can open doors that maybe are closed for us right now.
right.
So, I would anybody that's interested in writing a book, I think you should take a stab at it. Absolutely.
Those are words of encouragement from a man who has conquered being creative. He's a creative conqueror.
Chris, I don't think I've conquered being
No, I'm
creative.
kidding. No, but
Oh my gosh.
it's you know, you've had a very interesting journey, and I think it's really cool, and I find it fascinating, you know, how you have, you know, started your own business, you're 5 years in. Um, you know, you've learned how to create content, you create it, and you're still going. And you know, it's and like you said, there's a lot of growth. And this is, I feel like, for everybody that kind of feels like, you know, if you're listening and you're like, oh, you know, I don't want to do this or I don't know how to do it. Like I was just talking about the book thing, but like, you know, if you really want to do these things, you can absolutely make them happen. You really can. And I know it could be a little scary at first. Believe me, Sid and I were just talking about it. It's been scary for me doing the things I've done. It's not been without fear, but I also, you know, passionate about what I do. And Sid, you know, I know you've had, it's not easy. And yes, it's not like not without the anxiety, but it's also so rewarding in so many ways that it's incredibly difficult to articulate. But it's one of those things that once you start doing it, you're never gonna look back. You're gonna say, why did
Well,
I do this earlier?
absolutely. It's kind of like the podcast. Why didn't
Right.
I asked myself why I didn't do it early. Er, but here's the thing I would tell you when you read whether it's a book or a podcast or whatever it is you're trying to do, is know why you're doing it. Know what your outcome is. What is it that you hope to get out of writing this book or
Right.
doing this thing? And for me, Chris, it's always been about impact, never about money.
Right. Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so that's like Clubhouse for me is about impact, not about money.
Yeah.
And so if and this is how I think about it. And I would say this anybody out there listening, if you're on the edge of creating something, just know there is one person on the other side of the screen or the other side of the earbud or looking at something that you wrote that needs to hear your voice, and that their life will be changed by your story or your message. And if you think about it, as simple as one person, and not with the goal, I want to be a New York Times bestseller list, because that actually doesn't really exist. That's bought, by the way. But if think about one person that you can impact in one person's life that you can transform, let that be your guiding light and your guiding principle to create the content, to hit the record button, to do the live stream, to write the book, whatever it is. Let that be your guiding principle, and exactly what needs to happen will happen.
And there you go, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Sid Meadows. That was great. I couldn't have said it any better myself, my friend. So I think that is a great note to end the show on. Um, really, that was great. I think it's really positive words of inspiration, great positive mental attitude on how to look at it. And, and for everybody out there who's been watching and is listening and, checking out the replay of this, I hope that you guys found a great value in this conversation. I know I have for sure. And I said, I appreciate you coming on today and spending an hour with me and talking to everybody here today and having this great conversation. So thank you.
Well, it's my pleasure, Chris. I appreciate the invitation. I appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit of my story, but I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So we didn't get to a whole lot of things that you told me we were going to talk about. So can I come back next week?
Yeah, let's just get you back. I'm sending you
going to be like, whoa, no. Too much of Sid in the same month.
No. Well, we're going to do the sequel, man. The sequel.
Part
sequel.
2?
Everything ends with the sequel. And Amanda
That's
Sharp
great.
thinks it was a great episode. So
I love you, Amanda. Thank you.
We love you, Amanda. Thank you for checking on in. And so before we split, Sid, I've been flashing a lot of different things as we've been going for anybody who's been watching. Of course, all the links that we're going to be talking about or have talked about in this show are in the show notes and also the video description. So feel free to click on any of these links for Sid or for myself. But Sid, let's start with, you've got a website, sidmeadows.com.
Yes.
Correct.
That's my primary website. You can go to sidmeadows.com. You can learn all about me and all my favorite things and a little bit about my business and all kinds of good stuff. You can join our community there if you'd like to. You can also head over to the amazingentrepreneurs.club and learn about us there. Check out the podcast there, some of the resources that we have for entrepreneurs. And then my favorite 2 platforms or 3 platforms in order. I can't do them in order, but my favorite platform is LinkedIn. Feel free to connect with me there. Just be sure you shoot me a note that said, hey, you heard me on the Chris's podcast or live stream, Rocket. And then you can always connect with me on Instagram as well. And then if you are on Clubhouse, be sure you come and hang out with me. I am hosting some rooms, and then I'm participating in a lot. So I'd love to meet each and every one of you that are here today. So thanks again, Chris, for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And make sure you check out Sid's podcast, his other podcast, The Trend Report. So if you're involved in basically the furniture design, manufacturing space,
if you manufacture, distribute, or sell office furniture, or if you're an interior designer or an architect or someone who buys office furniture, you might find the Trend Report podcast to be very beneficial. Most of the conversations are directly with people who sell office furniture, but we do talk a lot about things happening in the industry, from trends to challenges and issues in the hybrid work environment, and you name it. And then we do interview CEOs and some other leadership there. So it's a great place. Come hang out with us.
Yes, absolutely. And you can check that out wherever you listen to podcasts, because Sid is everywhere. He's everywhere and anywhere.
That's right. I'm going to haunt your dreams.
That's right. Always haunting, always there. So once again, I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you all so much for watching live with us today. Thank you all for everybody who's going to check out the replay of this later on. And for those of you that are listening to the audio version of this, wherever you get your podcasts, please do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button or the follow button wherever you're getting this show right now, because that not only helps me grow the show, the channel, but it also helps my guests. And so when you go to reshare these episodes, it helps them as well. Also, if you want to connect with me direct, you can use the links in the show notes, or I'm going to make it really easy for you. That share card I was talking about, if you text the words "Let's Rock" to 88500, you will get access to all my contact information, plus all my links to my personal branding checklist, my personal brand quiz, my Discord group. Sid's got a Discord group too, by the way.
I do.
Definitely want to check out Sid's Discord group. So you also get access to my Discord group, plus all kinds of other cool, fun links there. So make sure you check that out. Text the words "Let's Rock" to 88500 or use the link in the show notes or this video description. Woo! And with all that, we're wrapping it up. All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching another episode of Rock It Live. We will be back soon with another live episode. Mr. Sid, any final words?
Oh, gosh, Chris. Thank you. And remember to take one step forward each and every day and become 1% better each and every day, not only in your personal life, but in your business. And your success is inevitable. You just have to go create it. Thanks for having me, buddy.
Thanks for coming on, Sid. I appreciate you very much. So always remember, everybody, remember those words from Sid, and always remember to always be authentic, always be yourself, and always remember to rock it. See you guys next time. Cheers.